or text it through on 0499 880 882. It's 5 to 3.
Do you know about the power of advertising on Talk Radio? Sam from Rochelle Printing does.
It's not an exaggeration. We have really seen a big spike, and a big spike to new customers. We've always had high repeat referral, but we feel that we've onboarded some new customers as a result of coming from what we've seen, which is great.
To connect your business to more active listeners on talk to us today. 4bc.com.au. If you can't work because of an injury, you could claim insurance as part of your super. Morris Blackburn, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm, will get you the best possible outcome so you can get on with your life again. It costs nothing to know. And well-being. It's why we've created over 235 delicious meals to make it easier for guys to eat well. And the guys want high-protein meals that are just 150 kilos. Guys just want to enjoy them.
We're on the Bruce Highway, Burpengary. Brisbane, the home of green trips.
An active life, a social life, a whole new life. That's life at Gem Life Over 50s Lifestyle Resorts. At Gem Life, you can downsize to a luxury home and enjoy premium facilities in fully gated communities where pets are welcome and souls are guaranteed.
LULA, Self-care doesn't go. Know that supermarket shelves are scarce. We're getting an expert in to tell us how. And of course, Tuesday means Tuesday checkup in our the experts. For now, though, my time is up, Brisbane, and I do thank you for yours. See you tomorrow from 11 a.m.
We're still locally owned and operated with a strong belief in personal care and attention. We treat our residents with warmth and respect. We welcome you into our family. Vicenti.com.au.
Aged care.
Bulletin waiting for news from Tonga changes to COVID reporting and high pricing for a rapid test. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm Jess Angelo.
The weekend tsunami which devastated Tonga might not be the last. Small-scale eruptions are continuing at the volcano north of the Pacific island, any of which could result in more tsunamis. It's still not known how bad the damage is as communication is cut, and volcanologist Professor Shane Cronin says more eruptions aren't the only risk.
Quite fortuitously, I think a lot of the ash plume has gone over uninhabited parts of the Pacific, so kind of between Tonga and Fiji, although there is still a fair amount of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, and so that can continue to produce acid rain.
A teenage boy injured in a crash on the Sunshine Coast a week ago has died in a Brisbane hospital. The 17-year-old had to be cut free from the wreckage of a car which hit a tree on an unsealed section of Pierce Avenue at Meridian Plains a week ago. The 17-year-old female driver and 2 other teens suffered minor injuries. Queensland Health has made some changes to the way it reports the number of active COVID cases in the state. The move brings Queensland into line with other states and territories. Health Minister Yvette Dove says a data cleanse has been done to reflect a change in reporting methods.
Previously with active cases, it was very easy to track in Queensland because they're all in hospitals, but now we've got a lot of active cases in the community. We've gone through and applied the definition that all of the states and territories are using, which is the 7-day rule around what is an active case.
There were another 7 deaths reported today, along with more than 15,000 new infections. It brings the number of active cases to 86,953. There are concerns for Queensland's aged care sector, which is battling multiple outbreaks. Pippa Bradshaw reports.
Queensland's aged care industry is in an emergency situation, according to experts, with more than 100 COVID outbreaks across Queensland. Federal government figures show there's currently 133 aged care outbreaks in the state, with 367 residents and 620 staff contracting the disease. The CEO of Aged and Community Services Australia has called for non-essential visitors to the campaign as care homes battle severe staff shortages. Today, Chief Health Officer Dr. John Gerard said there were no plans to reintroduce restrictions. In Brisbane, outrageous prices around antigen tests are being referred to the Australian Federal Police. Lucy Gray has the story. The Consumer Watchdog has received more than 1,800 reports about rapid antigen tests since December. The iPhone screen has been sold some for $20 to $30 each. That's despite costing as little as $4 at wholesale. The ACCC has contacted more than 40 companies about current pricing. Chair Rod Sims says he wants an urgent explanation, otherwise
we won't hesitate to take action and the penalties will be very large.
Pharmacies, convenience stores, tobacconists and supermarkets are the most reported traders. In Canberra, Lucy Gray, 9 News.
Sport. Listen to Money News Monday to Thursday night from 7 on 4BC.
Rafael Nadal has made a commanding start to his 17th Australian Open campaign. Shane McGuinness is at Melbourne Park.
As the only one of the big three playing at this year's tournament, Nadal looks in ominous form as he looks to become the first man to reach 21 Grand Slam titles. Nadal won the first set 6-1 against American Marcos Giron in just 24 minutes and currently leads a break in the second. Earlier, 24-year-old Sydney sider Alexander Vukic became the first Aussie through to the second round, coming from a set down to defeat 30th seed Lloyd Harris in 4 sets. Elsewhere around the precinct, after a shaky start, James Duckworth has gone up 2-1 against Frenchman Adrian Manarino, while it's been first round wins to Gael Monfils, Denis Shapovalov and Greek sensation Maria Sakkari. At Melbourne Park, Shane McInnes, 9 News.
The Matildas' 23-player squad for the Asia Cup has been finalised ahead of their opening match against Indonesia on Friday night. And the Gold Coast Titans' inaugural women's team has been out training as part of the 2022 NRLW pre-season. It's 3:04.
The story of Australia.
In parts, it is painful.
In parts,
it's beautiful, inspiring, greatly.
It brings us together.
And tears us apart. We all have our views.
So where do we start?
By listening to each other. And sharing our part.
We're all part of the story. Australia Day. Traffic. Join Neil Green for breakfast. Weekdays from 5:30 on 4BC.
In Kangaroo Point, a broken down van on Main Street inbound, left lane blocked after Vulture Street. The M1's heavy southbound through Rochelle South. Ipswich Road, slowly inbound approaching the Hospital. Busy on Kessels Road. Road eastbound approaching Garden City at Upper Mount Gravatt. No issues for the Centenary Highway southbound into Springfield Lakes. A nice easy run for the Ipswich motorway through Rockley and Oxley. I'm Reece Messenger on Brisbane's traffic leader, 882 4BC.
You can sell your car by the side of the road, might take a while and it might get towed. You can buy some ads in used car mags or spend big bucks in the daily bags. You can list your wheels on those car websites, then sit and wait till you get some bites. Might be weeks, could be months, or go to Car Buyers Online. Sell your car anytime. Car Buyers Online. CarBuyersOnline.com.au.
Mum and Dad really need to downsize and simplify their life. They deserve to live it up now they're retired. They love the Bayside as much as they love luxury and independence. So we're looking for a village that ticks all their boxes.
Have you heard about the Village Manly? Unbeatable location and exceptional facilities. It's more like a resort than a retirement village, and the price will surprise. Mum and Dad can finally downsize in the area they love. At the Village Manly, 162 Oceana Terrace, Manly. Order for the Village Manly with luxury retirement. Let's debate thevillagemanly.com.au.
The cloudy in Brisbane reaching a top of 31 degrees, getting down to 24 overnight. Looking ahead, partly cloudy tomorrow, a top of 31. A shower or two on Wednesday, 31. Rainy ones cooling down slightly Thursday through to the weekend, 27. To the bay, winds reaching up to 15 knots, currently 30 degrees at Toowong. And there'll be more news at 3:30 on your news leader, 882 4BC.
Drive with Scott Emerson.
Great to be with you this afternoon. I'm Scott Emerson, and we are live and local here. Great start, please. Let's bring you up to date with all the news you need to know today. On the COVID front, sadly, it has been the deadliest day of the pandemic so far in Queensland. The state has recorded 7 new deaths, the highest single-day toll in the state since the pandemic began. There were 15,122 new COVID-19 cases, and Chief Health Officer John Gerard says he expects the Gold Coast will reach its peak in the next week or so, and Brisbane is likely to follow a few days later. Now, Dr. Gerard, he said unvaccinated people are 24 more times likely to end up in the ICU unit than someone who's received 3 doses. Now, that is a massive reason. If you're not vaxxed yet, go get vaxxed. Just have a listen to what our show had to say.
Now, our statisticians have been busy at work looking at the intensive care units. And what they've found that if you are unvaccinated in Queensland, you are 24 times
Distance,
more likely to be
1
admitted to a
kilometre.
intensive care
Duration,
unit than someone who's
16
fully vaxxed.
minutes, 21 seconds, pace, 16 minutes, 21 seconds per kilometre, 97 kilocalories burned.
It just shows what an impact, not just obviously on the police service, but across the board COVID is having. But interesting to have a look at the numbers in terms of the police. It's been revealed almost 1,000 police staff are off work because they've contracted COVID-19 or are close contacts. The numbers come just days, obviously, after that border was the border restrictions were removed on Saturday morning. And a bid, of course, to free up police officers and bring them onto the front line. And Katarina Carroll, the police commissioner, you can see how overjoyed she was about that change when they announced it last week and what was going to happen on Saturday. But those numbers impacted, like many other organisations out there. They are really being hit hard by the impact of COVID, particularly the Omicron variant. 967 members of the police service are in isolation, while 347 officers are confirmed to have had contracted COVID-19. Now, just a week after announcing it, the state government has backtracked on its plans to extend the school year. You remember this? They announced the move for an extra week of classes at the end of the last term of this year to make up for delaying the start of the first term by 2 weeks, and that was for prep to year 10. But the move at the time, remember, was strongly opposed by the teachers' union, saying it would be poor recognition of the hard work by the teachers. Today, Education Minister Grace, she said that after, quote, constructive, helpful and productive meetings with the unions, the extra week of classes has been scrapped. Now, read between the lines here. Ignore the spin by the minister, and there'll be spin also by the unions on this. The teachers' union was clearly threatening a very, very big backlash against the Labor government, and that's why it rolled over. Most likely there was also some talk about potential industrial action as well. The thing for me about this is that I thought it was all supposed to be about the kids and their education. Now, I know that some parents out there wouldn't have liked that extra week of school at the end of the year because it would have impacted on some plans for holidays. But school is supposed to be about getting the kids the best education possible. How do you cram in an extra 2 weeks of classes and study and education into the school year? It was bad enough when I was saying we'll extend by 1 week at the end to make up for the loss of 2 at the beginning. But now they're saying, no, we can just fit it all in. Well, if they can do that now, why not put more classes on, put more studies in, if they can fit it all in? It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's just that the state government has capitulated to the education union, the teachers' union, and they made the threats. And despite Grace saying it's all about constructive, helpful and productive meetings, the bottom line is a week after announcing it, the state government has done this massive backflip in the face of a backlash, a potential backlash from the teachers' union. Let me know your thoughts about that. 133 882. Competition watchdog chairman Rod Sims has warned retailers selling rapid antigen tests for more than $20 that they must urgently explain the inflated price tag as part of the consumer watchdog's crackdown on pharmacies and small business operators seeking to take advantage of the shortage of the test. Have you seen that out there? I saw it a couple of weeks ago, just in a local shop in my area. Suddenly, it was about $30. They suddenly appeared. Now, I didn't think too much about it. I thought, well, that might be the price range, or maybe that's how much it costs them to get it. But I've been seeing reports of these are kits that basically cost between $4 and about $12 at a wholesale level. There's some reports of some being which is a $100 test. One of those tests. You can find the rapid antigen test to begin with. But what kind of prices have you been seeing out there? We'll pass that on. If you get some pretty high prices, and you can tell us offline if you don't want to name names. But if you see some pretty high prices out there, or you have seen some high prices out there, let us on. We'll pass that on to the ACCC. But $100 is what they're saying they've seen as much as. But yeah, $20 they reckon it should be. They're putting all those retailers on notice. And they're trying to charge more than $20. Novak Djokovic has landed in Dubai after being deported from Australia after losing his legal battle over his coronavirus vaccination status. Now, the men's world's #1 tennis player, he flew out of Melbourne last night after the appeal to overturn his visa cancellation failed. But you know, what all the eyes were on today was on this little-known Aussie at the Australian Open, Alexander Vukic. He's ranked 144th in the world, and he had to win the first round against his much more fancied South African opponent, Lloyd Harris. And it's his first ever win at a Grand Slam. What a great result. Let's have a listen to what he said after the win.
This is totally a dream, especially this court with all these guys. It's just, I came here as a kid and I was watching the Aussies play here, so to play here myself and to actually get the win, yeah, I keep putting the words, man.
Great to see. That's what you want from the Australian Open. The stories like that, matches, and Djokovic, glad you're gone. I saw someone on the text line a moment ago saying it was unlikely that he'd be flown out. I didn't say that last week at all. I said, look, I hope he goes. Let's see what does happen. So I don't know who you're listening to last week, because I wanted him gone, and I was just so pleased. We saw the result at the weekend, and glad to see him gone. I agree completely with the argument from the federal government that he was a rallying cry for the anti-vaxxers out there. I know they'll still be doing it anyhow, but I'm glad he's gone. And Alexander Vucic, that's what I want to see in the Australian Open. Good tennis and those kind of stories. 144th in the world as a first round win. Good on him, Alexander. Very well done indeed. Oh, this is such a heartbreaking story. And look, my wife went out to help in the search at the weekend. Lots of volunteers, not just my wife, were out there on Saturday and Sunday trying to help find the police dog after he went missing when he was involved in a search. And listen to his handler, Senior Constable Dan McGreevy. My family and I are deeply appreciative of everyone who's given their time to help find our best friend. He is much loved and deeply missed. We are heartbroken and miss him every moment he's not with us. What do you think's happened to him? My wife said to me it was pretty dense bushland out there. The grass is incredibly high. Look, good, well done to all those who were volunteering on the weekend, not just Robbie, but all the others. There was hundreds out there helping out the police, searching for ED police dog quiz. Unfortunately, this day, still no sign of him at all.
Hang on, I gotta reach out. Hey John, hey Sean. Yeah, I was just sitting there. Thought I'd film it. It was registered too. Yeah, it's pretty hot out here, eh?
On that system. Less humid with the rain and cooler in the temperatures.
Two trailer queens. I work patrol cars. Dirty Sanchez, let's jump on the back. Let's go for a ride, boys. Only joking, I wouldn't do that. No, you're not allowed to grow that stuff here. Plain white windows. That must have been the first one they built. After retirement one, for a community or something. It's Baptist.
Deputy Police Commissioner. Eddie Johnston on the line now. Steve, thanks for being on 4BC Drive.
Pleasure, Scott.
And now, all right, then look, it was good news. And I can see it in Katarina Carroll's face when the government announced the fact that the border restrictions were being eased. That you finally get your men and women in blue back onto their normal duties. But clearly COVID is having impact on a lot of organisations out there. No one is being missed out on, including the service. How big an impact is it having at the moment?
Well, as you said, you got the numbers spot on, Scott. So, and we've seen probably for the last week around 1,000 or so of our members every day being impacted by isolation, either orders or being positive. We expected this, so we've been planning for this for some time, right back to the beginning of the pandemic. We're looking at business continuity, and we do this as a matter of course for emergency response as well. You know, we have disasters in Queensland that impact in a lot of areas, so we've had to do this sort of planning for quite some time. So we've prepared for this, and of course what we do is approach a very borderless approach. So we'll move our resources around and even change what they do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that frontline, our first responders and the police that are out there in the community keeping our community safe every day are actually looked after, and that we keep those numbers up. So that's the focus of the numbers.
Oh, look, it's important that you keep getting those numbers there. In terms of going forward, I've heard John Gerard today saying we might see the peak on the Gold Coast in the next week or so, and then maybe a couple of days after that, Brisbane. In terms of your forward planning, are you anticipating at some point we will hit the peak in the next couple of weeks?
Oh, well, certainly I hope so, and obviously we talk to Dr. Gerard frequently, and across the modelling around these things. And, you know, they've been pretty on the money so far, and we're also seeing what's happening in the other jurisdictions as well, which gives us an insight to how those jurisdictions, New South Wales and Victoria in particular, how their police have been affected. One of the things we've got in our favour, of course, is that our workforce is not only double but triple vaxxed mostly, and are younger and in pretty good health, generally speaking. So the impacts on us, whilst we're losing numbers, we get them back too. So we're not seeing people going out for long terms. They're doing their 7 days and we're able to get them back.
Now, I'm talking to Queensland's Deputy Police Commissioner Steve Golczewski. Yeah, Steve, I want to ask you about business compliance with the rules out there, because I did see some footage of police arresting a cafe owner over the last day or two. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But how has business been in terms of complying with the rules?
Well, actually, overall, I give the business operators in the state a big rap. You know, since mid-August, when we've been doing random business inspections, and also more recently responding to calls for service since December, we've seen out to 8,819 businesses subject to a random inspection, and 1,315 calls for service around businesses, and we've only had to take action on around 7 businesses. So what we have seen, Bud, is those couple of cafes you're referring to, is that people, for whatever reason, believing they know better than our medical experts and the Chief Health Officer, and having their own views on what should happen for the pandemic, and in doing so are breaching the law. Now, we will, and have, shown tolerance, try to get them to comply. They've refused to do that. In some instances, it's ended up pretty seriously, and I've had people put in custody and bail opposed in Toowoomba, and unfortunately, the one in Brisbane, Capalaba, this person decided to commit offences and then wanted to resist police when we had to take action. So, you know, we'll deal with them accordingly. You breach the law in Queensland, you can expect the police to take action.
I shouldn't say it amuses me, but it confuses me in this, that you get some business owners, some say cafe owners, saying they know they're breaking the law, and they make they say, we're breaking the law, we don't believe in it. But then when they get arrested, they complain, what am I being arrested for? There seems to be some disconnect between the fact if they break the law, that there's going to be a penalty for it. And then you get people protesting about the fact
Yes, unfortunately, it's not unique to health directions, I've got to say. This happens in our business a fair bit, where people choose to do what they want to do and then don't like the consequences when, in fact, they've broken the law, and we decide that we need to take action against them. Look, this is very clear for us. The medical experts are saying this is the way we need to go. The health directions become law. People in this state, all the way through, and we're still handing out masks rather than giving people tickets. We will work with people. We'll give them a chance to comply with the directions. If they deliberately choose not to and they want to breach the law, well, then we'll have no option but to take enforcement action. And sometimes, as I said, in these couple of months, it's become quite serious.
Steve Golczewski, appreciate you being on 4BC Drive this afternoon.
You're welcome. Thanks, God.
A Summer of Tennis update. Thanks to VR 98, the everyday premium unleaded fuel that cleans and filters.
Day one of the Australian Open is well and truly underway, and while most of the focus over the past week has been on Novak Djokovic, Well, it's time we focus on the action on the court. Now, Aussie athletes have made a great start to the competition, with Alex Hutchins winning his first Grand Slam match. Fellow countryman James Duckworth is currently in the court against Frenchman Adrian Venerio, and they are in their fifth set. Another big name, and possibly favourite to win the competition, Nadal. He's also currently in action. He's 2 sets up and cruising in the third. Now, other Aussies on court tonight include world number 1 Ash Barty.
A grey house. Those white ones are Queenslander too.
She's won her first straight sets. Yeah, it's great to see the action on the court and on the tennis court rather than the legal court. Now, coming up next on 4BC Drive, we're joined by the Federal Shadow Treasurer, Jim Scott. It's just coming past 3. It's going to go to the West.
Monday to Thursday night from 7 on 4BC.
Delays are back to Logan Lee. A breakdown through Kangaroo Point on Main Street inbound. The left lane's blocked after Vulture Street. Debris on the M1 northbound lanes before exit 35 through Beanley. The M1 underspeed southbound through Rochdale South. The Bruce Highway northbound in Bald Hills and Beanley Rathline Bay Road in Carbrook. I'm Reece Messenger on Brisbane's traffic leader 882 4BC.
Breaking news and opinions that matter. What you need to know. Delivered by the best broadcasters in the country. Brisbane's 882 4BC.
Vintage Apron Cafe at Capalaba. Allegedly, the owner in the cafe is non-compliant with regards to COVID rules. This video of the owner being arrested has gone viral. Senior Sergeant David Candale. Yesterday, you've had to arrest a 52-year-old Wishart man who's the owner of the cafe.
I think I can walk it backwards.
But this is part of our job at the moment, and our priority is to keep the community safe.
Breakfast with Neil Breen on 4BC.
When everything that you've ever been taught doesn't work, what do you do?
It's almost like Mission Brown. The Queenslander.
Made possible.
Yeah, Mission Brown and Orange. 70s car.
Aussie hoses. Come out and spray the roses. No time for messy hoses. Then you need Aussie hoses. Retractable, no mess. No tangles and no stress. We deliver and install on
Modern over there. Oh. Clean as that.
Aussie hoses. Come out and spray the roses. Snub your nose and other hoses. Depend on Aussie hoses.
It's all go at Adani's Bravas Mining and Resources Carmichael Mine. During construction, we've spent more than $1 billion with regional Queensland contractors and suppliers and created more than 2,600 jobs. We're proud of the difference our project is making to local families, communities and the economy, as well as to developing nations, where our coal is being used alongside renewables to help lift people out of poverty. So thank you for your support, Queensland.
The Group 3 Garage Golden Ticket has taken Greyhound racing to new heights. And on Thursday, January 20, be there as the Golden Ticket will once again showcase the fastest greyhounds in the country at Bruce Gray's. Enjoy the end of school holidays trackside with the Fleetwood Mac tribute show entertaining guests live, while kids can enjoy the attractions on the lawn. Summer racing in Queensland has never been
top of the hill.
To book a function or to find out more, visit brucegrace.com.
Real care. Time to listen. Genuine concern for hard work. You don't see that. Well, at Blues the Chemist, you do. And what you also see every day are everyday low prices.
Who are you looking at?
Even including prescriptions. Because care doesn't cost you. It keeps the chemist.
You could claim insurance through your super. Morris Blackburn ensures you get your full entitlements. For a free super claim search, call on 1-800 111 Morris Blackburn, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm.
You're listening to Drive with Scott Emerson on Brisbane's 4BC.
Oh, let's head straight to the newsroom. Angela has all the latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, Scott. Well, an Australian surveillance flight has been sent to Tonga to assess the damage of a volcanic eruption and tsunami. The Air Force plane took off this morning after an ash cloud delayed its earlier departure. Volunteers involved in the search for a girl missing in the Blue Mountains are still hopeful of finding her alive. 9-year-old Charlize Martin was last seen at a property in Mount Wilson on Thursday, where she was holidaying with her family from Queensland. Queensland teachers will no longer need to work an extra week at the end of the school year to make up for a delayed start, and retailers ripping off customers trying to buy rapid antigen tests are being told to adjust their prices. In sport, Titans winger Phil Sammy has re-signed with the club until the end of the 2024 season. Scott, I'll have more in the news again at 4.
Thank you for that, Jess Ambler. Now, more than 11 million Australian workers are set to pocket nearly $10 billion in tax cuts in the first half of the year. Now, that's according to Treasury analysis of the government's income tax plan. Now, saying that sentence is there is going to be a federal election this year, as you know, in 2022, and we're going to see a lot of this. Now, Josh Friday,
very good driver.
Well, he's going to launch this and say, look, where tax is going to be cut for workers, because this is what happens in election campaigns. It's very much what happened in 2019. Now, why is he doing this? Because Josh Frydenberg, he wants to steer the political context back to a traditional election on taxes and cost of living, and away from those issues like the government's management of vaccine boosters and rapid antigen test shortage. It's not unexpected. 2022 election. Jim Chalmers is a shadow treasurer and member for Rankin, and he joins me on the line now. Jim, thanks for being on 4BC Drive.
Thanks for having me back on the show, Scott.
Well, look, as I said, this is not unexpected that the Treasury's going to release these figures, get Treasury to do it and make these claims about tax cuts. Now, first off, do you believe these numbers that the Treasury is saying?
Well, there's tax relief that's been legislated, which Labor voted for in the Parliament. So if he wants a little pat on the back for that, then
3
that's
kilometres. 3
which were supported
seconds.
by both parties
Pace.
in Parliament.
60
this government is actually
minutes.
taxing
24
more than Labor was
seconds
last time we were in
per
office. So
kilometre.
it sounds like Josh
300
been spending his summer
2
cooking up a
kilocalories
sort of dishonest
burned.
campaign rather than telling the truth about tax. I think Australians would prefer it if he did his job, which is to focus on getting those rapid antigen tests, dealing with the fact that people can't buy fresh food in our supermarkets, and all the economic consequences that those failures are bringing us. He would better spend his time doing his job than cooking up another scare campaign based on dishonesty.
Well, you say cooking up another scare campaign here. These are figures coming from Treasury. Look, and the Morrison government is not unique in this. I've been around politics a long time. Both sides of politics do this when they're in office. They get Treasury to analyse their figures, and they get Treasury to analyse any alternative proposals, which means basically the opposition's. So are you questioning Treasury's numbers?
No, I'm saying that the tax cuts that the Treasurer is referring to today were supported and voted for by both sides of the Parliament and passed some time ago. I'm not contesting that tax cuts were legislated in recent years. What I'm contesting is this ridiculous scare campaign, very predictable thing, which says that the government is somehow taxing less than Labor was last time it was in office. It's complete rubbish, and we know it's rubbish because Josh Frydenberg's own budget in table E3 on page 334 and 335 of his own budget update make it very clear that taxes have been higher every year under this government than what they inherited from Labor in 2013. Tax as a proportion of the economy is much higher now, on an average, than it was under Labor. The two highest taxing governments of the last 30 years have both been Liberal national governments, Scott Morrison's and John Howard's. And this government's collecting an extra $150 billion in tax this year than Labor collected in its last year in office. So if we want to have an argument about cuts, then let's use the facts in Josh Frydenberg's own budget to point out that the rhetoric that he likes to trot out is a distraction from his failures on rapid tests and groceries and the pandemic more broadly. Let's actually focus on the facts. And the facts tell a very, very different story than what Josh Frydenberg is saying today.
Now, All right, Jim, this is an election year then. All right, if Labor does get into power, are you ruling out any increased or new taxes under an Albanese government?
Look, we've said for some time, Scott, that we wouldn't be taking the same set of tax increases to the next election that we took to the last election. We've made it really
Go and pull over and get the Gatorade out. Gatorade. Or something similar. Put sugar in it. Let's go electrolytes too. Put that sugar back up. I need that bread.
Putting aside those multinational taxes you just mentioned then that you might do, are you ruling out all other increased or new taxes for other Australians out there, apart from those multinational taxes?
Well, we're ruling out those taxes that Josh Frydenberg's been banging on about today.
Yeah, but that's not. I'm not asking you about that. I'm saying, are you ruling out? Are you still saying that there will be Labor coming into the election, or in an Albanese government, there will possibly be new taxes, increased taxes? State level here, the policy government, they've been asked that question 20 times. And they'll say no new or increased taxes. They've been able to say that at an election campaign. Why can't the federal Labor do that?
Because I've made it clear that we would be looking for ways to change taxes like multinational taxes. I couldn't give you that blanket commitment, Scott, because we do intend to see if there are ways to get multinational corporations to pay their fair share of tax. I've said it 3 or 4 times now. I couldn't be clearer. Not prepared to give that blanket commitment for that very reason. But the tax changes that the government is accusing us of and saying that we will do after the election, we've been very clear, and Albanese has, and other colleagues and I have, for the last couple of years, that we won't take the same set of tax policies to this election that we took to the last one.
All right, Jim Chalmers, good to have you on the show. I'm sure we'll have you on a lot in this year, in an election year.
With water.
Look forward to it, Scott. All the best.
Like Gatorade or something similar.
So not ruling out multinational taxes, but he didn't rule out other taxes as well. What do you think of the performance of Jim Chalmers as Shadow Treasurer? Tax issues really hurt Labor at the last election. I think Jim Chalmers, I think he's a lot smarter than Chris Bowen, who was the Shadow Treasurer in 2019 election. But let me know your thoughts about that. 133 882. Yours, Scott Emerson. Let's check out the roads with Reese.
Traffic. Listen to the Ray Hadley Morning Show weekdays from 9 on 4BC.
The crash in Kingston on the Logan motorway westbound after Kingston Road. Delays are back to Logan Lee. A breakdown through Kangaroo Point on Main Street inbound. Left lanes blocked after Vulture Street. Debris on the M1 northbound before exit 35 through Bean Lee. The M1 itself is slow southbound through Rochdale South and the Bruce Highway northbound in Maroondah Downs. I'm Reese Messenger on Brisbane's traffic leader 882 4BC.
If you missed it, you'll find it at 4bc.com.au. Log on now and catch up
up on the latest shows and highlights from your favourite presenters. 4bc.com.au.
Now, you can scan your Flybuys card at Bunnings Warehouse and Office Works. Collect points on the latest tech, your DIY deck, barbecue bits, and back-to-school lists. 2 more places to collect Flybuys points. Get scanning. T's and C's apply.
I've been around retirement villages for a while now, and one thing I've learned is that everyone has different needs. Whether it's gardening, health checks, or help around the home, the care and support you can get at Cleveland Manor Retirement Village lets you live life on your terms. If you need little help or a lot, the right support is here when you need it. Now and in the future. Visit retireaustralia.com.au to find out more about Cleveland Manor Retirement Village.
Hi, Pat Panetta here. Aussies are known for our giving you the go attitude, so why not give Nature B Power Pollen a go and say yes to improved energy, vitality and immunity. A natural superfood, Nature B is made from potentiated pollen, a potent power pack of micronutrients,
My little
including 27
cord organiser turned into health power bank, holds my blood sugar glucose back up. I use the phone, cord,
that's a 6-month supply of power pollen, and Nature B will add a bonus
insulin, some other cord, back up for that in case the sensor doesn't work.
Health is your wealth in these challenging times.
I need that
Give
and that.
Power Pollen a go risk-free. Call 1-800-147-009 or visit naturebee.com.
If you have an accident and you're covered by insurance, I want you to exercise your right and insist on the repairer of your choice. So when making a claim after a bingle, ask for the Bump Shop. The Bump Shop team are master smash repairers who'll get you back on the road as fast as possible. Their experienced technicians use advanced equipment to repair and detail all Eagle Farm. Find out more on the website bumpshop.com.au. But exercise your right and insist on the repairer of your choice.
G'day, it's John from Southern Plumbing.
For a plumber who's caring, call in the
Nothing special, just a reminder to check your home for leaks this season. Leaks not only waste water, but can damage your home's foundations. Just turn off all the taps in your home, then check the water meter. If it's turning over, you may have a leak. And if you do, give us a call.
Don't get a plumber who's phony. Call the Avalone.
Southern Plumbing, don't pump. SouthernPlumbing.com.au.
Coolsea.com portable air conditioners are innovative, energy efficient, and will revolutionise the way you stay cool. Requiring just 340 watts, they use up to 75% less electricity than traditional air conditioners, making them environmentally friendly and affordable. Order an air conditioner this month and get 50% off the fantastic Igloo 10. Just use
I think I'm getting buy those backpacks with the bladders and see you later. Fill it up with this stuff.
You're listening to Drive with Scott Emerson on Brisbane's 4BC.
Let's start looking at some of your calls and feedback. Don't forget that open line number is 133882. Mark is on the line.
Oh, I'm just fascinated by the way the Queensland government has decided to say that there's 2 weeks of being school. Your colleague Hildebrand said that the World Health Organisation, the United Nations, have both said that schools should be the last to close and the first to open.
Yeah, well, look, it was interesting, Mark, to hear the teachers' union when I spoke to them last week saying, yeah, we support the fact that the schools are going back for 2 weeks, but we desperately don't want to have an extra week at the end of the year. And bugger me, what happened? They have a chat to Grace, and suddenly it's gone.
Well, maybe the colleagues could organise them both quick on the 2 weeks because it just seems to me that no other jurisdiction in the whole of the planet needs this extra 2 weeks off at the beginning of the school year.
Look, even though our powers are monitoring there, Mark, I just don't think it is going to happen at all on that one. But yeah, look, I was amazed by how quickly the turnaround was in terms of that losing that week at the end of the year. I really thought it might take a little bit longer than that. Maybe they would have announced it a couple of weeks later, maybe mid-term, and said, no, we're not going to do that. But I have no doubt that the Teachers' Union threatened a fairly big backlash against the Education Minister, Grace, and the Labor government if they kept on tacking on that extra week. But how do you cram the extra 2 weeks of missed classes into the rest of that school year without, well, how are you going to cram the 2 weeks into the extra week? Now that extra week is gone as well. That made no sense to me. Amazing how quickly the government changed its mind about that. Let's have a look at some of the feedback here. I mentioned that my wife Robbie was involved in the hunt on Saturday for police dog quiz out there at Redbank. Bruce says he's texting from Chapel Hill. I hope they find PD quiz alive and not too badly injured. I know they wear little vests when they're on duty, so why haven't the police already decided to put GPS tracking devices in those vests for situations like this? Look, that is a very good question, Bruce, I must admit. When Robbie went out with our dog, Dodge, she wore those air tags on the dog. On Dodge, happy birthday to Dodge, it's his birthday the weekend as well. So I don't know why the police don't do it for their dogs. That's a good question. I should ask Steve Olchesky about that. Jeff, actually, Graham says, have the teachers' union just delivered their members a significant pay increase by stealth? The school year is now starting 2 weeks later, except grades 11 and 12, albeit not at the teachers' doing, but now finishing the year at the same time at the end of the year. Is the working year for most teachers now not 2 weeks shorter for the same rates of pay? Well, if you talk to the Queensland Teachers Union, they would argue that some teachers are working anyhow for some of the schools, and while we mentioned about those from prep to year 10, as we know, for those essential workers out there, the children of essential workers, they may be still turning up to the school. So some teachers might be turning up, but I reckon the vast majority, yes, I think you're right, John. They are really at least for the same pay. No doubt about that at all. I thought it was always supposed to be about the best for the kids. Best for the kids. I don't see how you can argue that it's best for the kids and their education to suddenly say, oh, that week we're going to have extended to make up for the 2 weeks. That extra week at the end of the year is suddenly we'll just scrap that. How is that best for the kids? The argument is, from the teachers' union, which the minister says she agrees with, is, oh, we can cram it all into the shorter period of time. I don't know if that works, and I'm sure that is not the argument when the teachers' union comes up for a pay rise to say, oh, look, we can do it all better in a shorter period of time. That won't be the case. They'll then start talking about how important it is to give the kids the best education. So it makes no sense to me at all. Paul from Jimboomba says Scott Morris and Greg Hunt were talking about RAP tests a year ago, and every AMA president from every state bagged them. So to blame and the fear-mongering chose for lack of them now. Well, if I don't, I blame a lot of people for lack of RAP tests, not just the federal government. Look, the reality was when we heard the Omicron virus is coming, we were told there'd be a wave coming through, there'd be high numbers, and we were one of the few countries in the world that didn't start to stockpile rates. And I blame that also for the state government. They were just slavishly locked into PCR tests. We talked about it at the end of last year. Oh no, we don't want rat tests, the Premier said. We'll keep using the PCR tests. And I said at the time, no, that's not how to go, the way we're going. Like, it won't work. Omicron is coming, the numbers will be up. Get the rat test. But the Premier was saying, no, we'll keep to the PCR test. So both the state and the federal government, I think, to blame for our lack of rat tests now. We should have been stockpiling last year. Yes, we're going to get numbers here at the end of January. In February, we'll get some more. No doubt about that. But I think it was a significant failure at both levels of government that we do not have those tests as we speak. Now, coming up next on 4BC Drive, we'll get the latest in finance. Just coming up to 6 to 4, let's go to Reese.
For breakfast, weekdays from 5:30 on 4BC.
In Kingston, a crash, Logan Motorway westbound after Kingston Road delays back to Logan Lee, nearly back to Meadowbrook. A breakdown through Tarragindi on the Castle Road northbound off-ramp from the Pacific Motorway in the left lane. A breakdown through Kangaroo Point on Main Street inbound in the left lane blocked after Vulture Street, and through Archerfield at Gravel Spill on Kangaroo Road westbound left lane before after Bogus at
Distance 4 kilometers. Duration 1 hour 2 minutes 11 seconds. Pace 17 minutes 7 seconds per Kilometer 389 kilocalories burned.
The winner codes, plus we'll keep you up to date with the latest in all of our favourite summer sports. It's also the show where you can have your say, and we'll have some fun along the way. Here from the big names in sports, 6 o'clock right here on 4BC.
Wide World of Sports, Monday to Thursday from 6 on the new 882.
With ultra-fast charging and over 510 kilometres of driving range. The a 12.3-inch panoramic track display and zero emissions. It's as silent as the critics. To find out more, visit kia.com.au. You don't have to leave home. You just need Angels and Matrons. Private or funded home care packages to suit your specific needs with no exit or start-up fees. Angels and Aprons, Brisbane, Gold and Sunshine Coast. Code 33562563.
Turns out I didn't have to worry. I do balance classes with the troops twice a week, and then I catch up with everyone when I'm in the bar for happy hour. That's about the right balance for me. Yeah, well, I wish I'd made the move to Avail sooner.
There's never been a better time to take the first step to great retirement living. Search Avail First Step today. Discover Sri Lanka and the Maldives with Trooper Deal from only $2,999 per person to ensure. Take in the history and culture of Sri Lanka, the Maldives dream, incredible nights. This 14-day package includes flights, accommodation, all-inclusive meals and drinks in the Maldives, and much more. Hurry, this Trooper Deal offer is selling fast. Book now. Call 1300-940-994 or visit trooperdeal.com.au. TNCs apply.
It's Brett Steen from Jacaranda Financial Planning. Here to sort out your we provide trusted, clear superannuation and retirement advice. Book Brett and Blake's free super and retirement planning seminar, 6 p.m. Thursday, January 27th at Customs House, Queen Street, Brisbane. Learn tips and traps and how to make your account-based pension and super work. Book with Jacaranda on 1800 40 2610. That's Jacaranda Financial Planning, 1800 40 2610.
Everyone knows containers go in the recycling bin. But did you know that if you put them in a plastic bag first, they'll end up in landfill? So don't bag your containers in a recycling bin. If you want them to be recycled, you need to set them free. Free!
Brought to you by Containers for Change.
To Drive with Scott Emerson on Brisbane's 4BC.
Well, Jim Chalmers is being hammered on the feedback line after my interview with him and that issue about Labor. Will they raise taxes and bring in new taxes? We'll bring it up next, but first let's check out what's happening in finance.
A finance update.
And we're joined now by Steve Damien from Comsec. Steve, what happened to the markets today?
Scotty, hello mate. Happy Monday to you. Well, look, the Aussie market had quite an uninspired start to the session. Found its footing this afternoon. We managed to lift by around 1/3 of 1%. Today was the busiest day of the month for updates on how our largest trading partner China's doing. Mixed set of numbers, but China's economy is growing at a slowest pace in 18 months. But the numbers were better than expected. A rate cut in China as well today, so that seemed to help markets across the region. Mining stocks under pressure today. We had stock outs from energy companies and Wesfarmers as well. After signing contracts to move its profit goals, the Aussie dollar around 72 US cents.
Well, thank you for that, Steve Degling. That's Steve from Comsec. We'll catch him again tomorrow. Now, coming up next on 4BC Drive, bringing that feedback about Jim Chalmers, but also we'll catch up with Terry Burke. He's the General Secretary of the Independent Education Union of Australia's teachers there. So, what's he say about the decision to scrap the week extra of school? And that's up next.
For 3 generations, Vicente Premium Aged Care has been looking after Brisbane families. We're still locally owned and operated, with a strong belief in personal care and attention. We treat our residents with warmth and respect, so they can feel connected, content and comfortable. When you choose Vicente for your family, we welcome you into our family. And that feels like home. Vicente.com.au.
This news for Vicente Premium Aged Care, caring for Brisbane families. On the go and missed a show? Download the podcast at 4bc.com.au. Brisbane's 882 4BC.
This bulletin, hospitalisations jump in Queensland, school year extension scrapped and a little girl lost. It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon, I'm Jess Ambler. Vulnerable Queenslanders and the elderly are being reminded of the importance of booster shots. It comes as the state records more than 15,000 new COVID cases and 7 deaths. Dr John Gerard says none of them were fully protected.
2 people in their 80s and 5 in their 90s. 2 of these people had not been vaccinated. 5 were double vaxxed and none had received a booster.
The state's Deputy Police Commissioner says they've seen about 1,000 officers a day being impacted by COVID over the past week. Steve Goshevsky says it's something they expected and planned for at the start of the pandemic. He's told Scott Emerson they're managing to get by, taking a borderless approach.
We'll move our resources around and even change what they do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that frontline, our first responders and the police that are out there in the community keeping our community safe every day are actually looked after, and that we keep those numbers up.
The Queensland Teachers Union has got its way with the extra week at the end of the school year scrapped. The additional time was given following the delay to the start of the school year to avoid the peak of the Omicron wave. But Education Minister Grace Gray says she's now confident the full curriculum can be handled regardless.
Queensland has some of the best principals and teachers and staff in the country. They are highly skilled at delivering the curriculum across the school year, and students will not miss out. Can I assure parents and carers that they will not miss out?
Crisis aid organisations are gearing up to help residents affected by a volcanic eruption in Tonga. The fibre optic cable on the bottom of the ocean has been severed, limiting communication in and out of the country. Aid organisation CARE's Charlene Alley says while they can't gauge the full damage of the incident, there's certain communities will require assistance.
The ashfall has contaminated drinking water. The tsunami and ashfall are likely to have caused widespread crop destruction. People whose homes have been flooded are likely to need emergency shelter. Safe drinking water, sanitation and other basic essentials. The service providers will need lots of support.
Weather Zone's Joel Pippard is told Scott Emerson will see some of the effects of the eruption here in
clouds move over from that system. Now, fortunately, because that eruption is so large, a lot of the particles that have reached Australia are actually really high up in the stratosphere, which means they're not going to impact much of what we do day to day. So airlines are the biggest concern, and they're not too worried about it at the moment.
The federal government is optimistic about Australia's economic recovery despite the spread of the Omicron variant. Report by accounting firm Deloitte forecasts the economy to grow a healthy 4% this year. That's a significant improvement on contraction seen during hard lockdown since 2020. And volunteers involved in a search for a girl missing in the New South Wales Blue Mountains are hopeful of finding her alive. 9-year-old Charlize Martin was last seen at a property in Mount Wilson on Thursday, where she was holidaying with her family from Queensland.
Rehab Morning Show, weekdays from 9 on 4BC.
Australian wildcard Alexander Vukic has really back to claim a stunning upset win over number 30 seed Lloyd Harris to advance to the round 2 of the Australian Open. Ranked 144th in the world, Vukic says the crowd's support got him across the line.
These guys are with me every day, and I knew I wasn't alone, so I couldn't have done it without them.
Queensland's Ash Barney will be in action at the Woodland Arena this evening, along with fellow Aussies John Millman and Isla Tomljanovic. Australian batsman Travis Head is hoping to cement his place in the Test team by continuing his form from the Ashes. Head has been named player of the Ashes series and is turning his attention to Australia's tour of Pakistan in March. He says it's hard to know to what conditions to expect on the subcontinent.
I've heard different people, different things. No one's told them. So, like any tour, same as Sri Lanka, I think you look at ways you may be able to counteract.
It's 4:04, news and sport.
He just spoke about refinancing and as a first-grade customer.
customer expected a first-rate home.
I didn't rate it.
So he spoke to Macquarie Bank. They reward good borrowers with great rates, low fees, and a game-changing 24/7 digital experience. If you'd like to move with the times, move your home loan, search Macquarie Home Loans, or call your broker and say,
I bank with Macquarie.
lending criteria, fees and T's and C's apply.